Hello and welcome to State of Play on Mint Press News, a weekly editorial news show where we break down and discuss all the insanity that happens over the weekend. It's been 1 week into the new Trump administration, so roughly 208 more weeks to go. And oh boy, there's a lot going on. So tonight we will be covering DeepSeek. And if you were wondering, the meltdown on X by American techno-feudalists has to do with the Chinese AI model DeepSeek being far more efficient and cheaper than anything coming out of Silicon Valley. So technical leadership versus the American business-led model designed to absorb the maximum amount of capital. Hopefully this will somehow manage to disrupt Project Stargate, which essentially would create an Orwellian Big Brother surveillance state masquerading as, in the words of OpenAI's about page, infrastructure that will secure American leadership in AI, create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, and generate massive economic benefit for the world. We're going to get into DeepSeek later, but Trump is also walking back his tariff plan from 60% on Chinese goods to 10%. Just highlighting these things at first to just bring up that Trump's foreign policy strategy is to just be a reality TV star, say a bunch of crap, and see how people respond to it. So we know from the last presidency that he makes a lot of bluster, talks a big game as a bargaining tool, then walks it back. I imagine he'll also walk back his threats of a trade war with Canada. So again, also, how about them egg prices, right? And as people are still filtering into the live, just wanted to give people time before we start talking about Gaza to come in. So first of all, we are on Patreon. Mint Press News is a small independent news room that receives no corporate donations. So if you want to hit us up on Patreon and support what we do, if you're picking up what we're putting down, $5 a month really does go a long way. And if you can't swing it because you're existing under the yoke of late stage finance capitalism, that's great. If you could like, share, subscribe, and comment in the comments section, it will drive engagement and help us not be shadow banned, at least on YouTube and X, as we generally are. So what's another fun thing going on while people are still getting here? We got bird flu ripping through our avian food supply chain. It just hit California. I'm currently coming to you from Long Island, New York, known for its ducks, and a farm here just had to euthanize 300,000 ducks. And there's no small amount of concern that it will transfer to humans en masse, which is amazing since Trump has withdrawn the U.S. from the World Health Organization on the eve of a massive global pandemic and has made stifling cuts to U.S. health agencies. The limits on travel spending announced internally on Wednesday last week add to previous indefinite halts on external communications, including publishing new reports or even posting to social media, and on reviewing and approving new medical research, a nearly $50 billion industry in the U.S. So I'm sure that this whole stance on cutting medical funding on the eve of a plague won't have any unintended consequences. So the mood at health agencies has been, quote, nothing short of morose and somber, said one CDC employee who requested anonymity because of the ban on communications, The Guardian reporting. Also, there is the alarming rise of fascism happening in the Western world right now. It's been here for some time, but now they're really cranking it up. A congressional House resolution put forth by Marjorie Taylor Greene seeks to designate Antifa, aka Anti-Fascist Action, as a domestic terrorist organization. More on that later if we have time. So if you're wondering if is the next decade gonna suck, yeah, it's gonna suck. Better start cultivating some revolutionary optimism. But the main topics for today are DeepSeek, Project Stargate, and the unfolding and most important topic and main subject, the unfolding situation in Gaza, which has a lot of people nervous. Trump said some stupid things that people are taking way too seriously. But first, context. Tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians began returning home to northern Gaza on Monday, bracing for what awaits them in a region that has been reduced to rubble by months. And this is how the New York Times is phrasing it, by months of brutal bombardment and fighting, aka a failed genocide, or, somewhat successful if, we go by the destruction of a people in part. So Israel opened a corridor to the north of Gaza Strip Earlier today, and I'm sorry if there's a lot of background noise, I can't help it. On Monday, 48 hours later than initially planned, it blamed the delay on Hamas, saying that the militant group, again, this is how the New York Times is framing it, breached the terms of the ceasefire agreement that guaranteed people would be able to return to the north. Hamas obviously didn't. The entire drama happening over the release of a single hostage. Anyways, every accusation is a confession, and there is an entire corpus of evidence that Israel has broken the ceasefire multiple times by shooting kids, the favorite pastime of IDF snipers. So, seen from above, the crowds on Monday, and we're going to play some video throughout, resemble a huge, slow moving wave making its way up the Gaza coast, then turning inland. Most, including children, injured people, and the elderly, were traveling on foot, carrying the little they have left on their backs. Most have spent many months exiled in makeshift refugee camps after Israeli forces ordered large scale evacuations. So we're taking a look, and this is some Al Jazeera footage, but we are going to hear some videos, and I'll translate the subtitles in case you are just listening to the audio. So this is a series of clips from social media posted by Gazans on various social media platforms. So here we go. And these were made in response to Trump's saying that we're going to clear out Gaza. So we won't leave it. This is the proof right in front of Trump's eyes. You can tell the whole world we're ready to die on our land. We won't leave it. Our land is our honor. We've suffered, we've struggled, but we won't leave it. Trump is dreaming if he thinks that any of us will go to Egypt or Jordan. We won't leave it. All right, kids. I am from Gaza, all right? I just tell them one word. Nothing will benefit you except the soil of our land. That's it. I think there's some weird translation going on right now. But he's saying, I would die in Gaza rather than leave it. I kiss its soil before you go. Allah's great. Kiss its soil. Yeah, I think I don't know, maybe one of our Arab comrades could tell us if these subtitles are correct, but this is the scene. Abdel Nasser, I mean, honestly, this is the soil of Gaza. These are the displaced people in Gaza City. Anyways, the general thing is they won't be displaced. Now, this is all coming in response to President Trump's audio from, I think it was yesterday, being Sunday. Maybe it was Saturday. I'm not really sure, but here we go.
The whole Gaza Strip right now, and it's a mess. It's a real mess.
So you'd like Jordan to house people from
I'd
Gaza?
like him to take people. I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General El-Sisi tomorrow, sometime I believe. And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. I mean, you're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's it's over the centuries that's many conflicts that site, and I don't know. It's something has to happen, but. It's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished, and people are dying there. So I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing in a different location where they can maybe live in peace for a change.
Temporarily, or would they
It could be either. It could be temporarily, could be long term.
All right, someone in the comments just said Zionists whispering in Trump's ear like worm tongue. Awesome Lord of the Rings reference. Love it. So President Trump's rambling, confused suggestion that Jordan and Egypt absorb roughly 1.5 million of Palestinian refugees from the Gaza Strip, made aboard Airforce One over the past weekend, has drawn immediate condemnations and rejections. In short, the plan is unworkable, and people in the resistance will remain. Tonight on State of Play, we prepare for another 4 years of blustering, confused foreign policy. I know a lot of people are concerned for the future of Gaza, but you know who isn't? Liberals. Let's just check in with our centrists to see what they are saying. So I think this is from the comments section of an Al Jazeera post about Trump's Air Force One comments. We tried to tell you, but you cared more about your protest vote. Detroit, Michigan, Dearborn, here you go. So okay. So hey, Jill Stein and Jill Stein voters, where you at? Don't stay quiet. Let's hear it. Jill has an excuse. She is gone for 4 years, like the last 6 times she ran. But what about you guys? To all the pro-Palestine folks that voted for Trump, I hope you're happy. You are responsible for this. Take your bow. This is like really abusive commentary, which of course you scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. Good going, Jill Stein voters. You did it. Um, again, blood on your hands. But again, of course, if the vote tallies are accurate, he still had the popular vote, and even all the third party voters voting together wouldn't have changed the outcome of this election. And I have to admit, and I'm going to editorialize for a minute here, like the liberal outrage uh, that we're seeing is, they were silent for the past 15 months. They're like, we just have to, be quiet and we'll deal with that later. Uh, the gloating over the destruction of Gaza, like the vengeful gloating over the destruction of Gaza to like punish third party voters is probably, or non-voters, or people who even voted for Harris but like were anti genocide, is probably the most perverse thing that we have all come to expect. So yeah, uh, vengefully reveling in genocide because their corrupt, deeply unlikable candidate, cop, anti-working class cop, didn't win. No accountability for the corporate elites who have sold out the Democratic Party and abandoned the working class. Trump's new administration, a fascist melding of government and oligarchic power, at least pretends to be for the working class. I mean, they aren't in the slightest, but at least they pretend to be. So they have the sense to straight up lie about it. All I'm saying is the Dems could learn a thing or two. So we won't waste much more time on blue MAGA reactionary liberals whose spineless, morally bankrupt ideology, or lack thereof, will compel them to toe the line when an overt fascist control is exerted over them. No concept of resistance, peaceful or otherwise. At least they voted and said, "Not today, Hitler." So this is why they'll never understand why Gaza will not be ethnically cleansed and rebuilt into a new Singapore, as Trump intimates and Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, deeply wants. So they think that, just because a great power wants something, yeah, thanks, Justin. Greg is strong AF, is holding his mic for the whole show. Yeah, I'm on a trip and we forgot to pack the tripod. So here we go. Sorry. Okay. Again, this is why they won't get it. They think that just because a great power wants something to happen, it's going to happen. Like, have you paid no attention to US foreign policy, like, ever? How did the US plans go during the global war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan? How did the Vietnam War go for the United States? Let's just look at this issue rationally, all right? So Trump's geopolitical creativity knows no bounds. In order to turn the strip into Singapore, or like the new Dubai, or whatever the hell he said, his administration will move, what, 2 million people to Indonesia. Now Trump is proposing that Egypt and Jordan take in more Palestinians from Gaza. And I think we have some B-roll that we can roll, because you're about to get a talking to for a minute. Um, so I'm gonna try to put myself on here. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're still figuring out the technicalities of recording on StreamYard. We can't use Riverside because Riverside's Israeli. But yeah. So okay, now they're taking them from Jordan to Gaza, obviously being sarcastic about him being creative when it comes to foreign policy. So according to a different report, the American plan calls for the temporary relocation for 6 months to a year until early 2026 of Gazan Palestinians to 3 Arab countries and another country. At the end of that period, they would not necessarily return to the Strip. In other words, transfer, or if you will, Trumpsfer. At this rate, Trump is likely to propose, honestly, that Gazans be launched voluntarily into space to settle Mars, in the spirit of his promise in his inauguration speech. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars. It's crazy that he brought up the old term manifest destiny, which was basically just, oh, it's our destiny, the white dudes, to own the American continent. So it's just destiny. So genocide's fine. Um, Launching American astronauts to the to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. So coming out of Amman, again, he is a reality TV star saying reality TV crap. So coming out of Amman, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi said on Sunday that Jordan's position against the displacement of Palestinians remains, quote, irreversible and unchanged, unquote, emphasizing the need for achieving regional stability and peace. In remarks made during the discussions with Sigrid Kaag, the acting special coordinator for Middle East peace process and senior humanitarian and reconstruction coordinator for Gaza, Safadi reiterated Jordan's unwavering commitment to supporting Palestinians on their land. So Egypt and Jordan, along with the Palestinians, worry that Israel would never allow Palestinians to return to Gaza if they are made to leave. Obviously, there's no right of return. Once they're gone, Israel will never let them come back. So they can't leave. Or if they do leave, they're leaving knowing that they're probably not going to come back, be able to. So both Egypt and Jordan have perpetually struggling economies, and their governments, as well as those of other Arab states, fear massive destabilization in their own countries and the region from any such influx of refugees. So Jordan is already home to more than 2 million Palestinian refugees. Egypt has warned of the security implications of transferring large numbers of Palestinians to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, which borders Gaza. So, if you guys recall, we've talked about this before. The Egyptian government, they're still fighting an extremely low-grade counterinsurgency operation against some Bedouin groups, and they definitely don't want that to flare up again. So again, them being the Egyptian government. So Egypt's foreign minister issued a statement saying that the temporary or long-term transfer of Palestinians, quote, risks expanding the conflict in the region, unquote. In the statement, the ministry reaffirmed Egypt's commitment to the principles and parameters of a political solution to the Palestinian issue, stressing that it remains the central issue in the Middle East. The delay in resolving it, ending the occupation, and restoring the stolen rights of Palestinian people is the root cause of all the instability in the region. Obviously, that and Western imperialism in general, in which case we could call Israel part of that. So, in Egypt, despite being half a world in debt to Western financial institutions like the IMF, is strategically vital to U.S. interests. Any shutdown of the Suez Canal due to instability in the Sinai is something the U.S. State Department will not risk. So, those are just the actual foreign ministers of these actual governments. Like they can't absorb 2 million Palestinians. I just want to, before we move on to how European leaders are responding to this, because it's interesting. Trump said on Airforce One, displacing 1.5 million Palestinians to clear out the Gaza Strip. You guys know that the 40,000 casualties was an insane low ball, right? He said, I fear that he said 1.5 million because he knows his own reporting coming from the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. He said 1.5 million because that's how our own intelligence services interpret the casualty count. I think he kind of slipped up and gave a number that he was briefed on, and that's, my concern. Obviously, with the amount of ordnance based off crude casualty counts from similar conflicts and similar bombing campaigns, 500,000 killed through direct munitions or through famine, displacement, exposure to the cold during the winter. It's not an unreasonable figure, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think that those are the numbers. And he slipped up and actually said it in the interview because he just talks. He just says shit. So, anyways, yeah, just wanted to point that out there. So Germany's government also rejected the idea of a mass displacement of Palestinians on Monday, which is interesting because they will support Israel 100% no matter what, but they have a huge migrant sorry, not migrant, refugee issue. There are concerns that if Palestinians start getting displaced, they'll come back to mainland Europe and inflame their reactionary far right um, groups, and so they reject the idea categorically of mass displacement. At least the current government. Uh, of Palestinians on Monday, which is today, with a spokesperson from the foreign ministry telling reporters in Berlin that the country shared the view of the European Union, our Arab partners, the United Nations, that the Palestinian population must not be expelled from Gaza, and Gaza must not be permanently occupied or recolonized by Israel. So even fascist war hawks like Senator Lindsey Graham, a veteran Republican senator and Trump fanboy, said, quote, the idea that all the Palestinians are going to leave and go somewhere else, I don't see that to be overly practical. He said, going on, that Mr. Trump should keep talking to Mideast leaders, including the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and officials of the United Arab Emirates. So, as you know, it's important that the Comprador Gulf state dynastic Arab governments at least pretend for their own internal stability to be cosmetically, that's how I call it, cosmetically pro Palestine. They secretly want to normalize within Israel, but can't really do it. So they kind of straddle the fence. In short, the liberal reactionaries in my comments section should be reminded that just because they are willing to tolerate the destruction of an entire group of people, the rest of the world really isn't. This is not politically viable. And we're just talking about the actual politics, not putting it into practice. So only the only people supporting any comprehensive plan to displace the remaining people in Gaza are far right ministers like Finance Minister Bezal. God, I hate this guy's name. Bezalel Smotrich and MK and former National Security Minister Itamar Ben Gvir. The successor of Mayor Kahane suggested that the government itself implement the idea. Tell me who gets excited about your yeah, like literally tell me who gets excited about your ideas, and I'll tell you how bizarre they are. So this is a quote from Smotrich. He said this earlier. Quote, the idea of helping them to find other places in order to start a good new life is a wonderful idea. Oh, thanks, Smotrich. You really care. To quote the lead editorial from Haaretz today, again, if you're not familiar, it's a liberal Zionist newspaper. You can equate it to like the New York Times of Israel. I think that would be apt. The article was entitled Trump Wants to Settle Displaced Palestinians Anywhere But Gaza. Israel's Far Right Agrees. Written by Anonymous. It's possible to settle the Israel-Palestinian conflict with magic solutions. Sorry, I meant to say it's impossible. And this is quoting from the last sentence of the op-ed, the lead editorial in Haaretz today. It's impossible to settle the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with magic solutions. Certainly not when they rhyme with transfer and include ethnic cleansing. It's better not to bring up ideas whose only potential is the sabotaging of Israel's peace agreements with Egypt and Jordan. People really need to stop taking things Trump says, at least in a foreign policy context, so seriously. Again, I've said this. This is probably the third time I've said it. He is a reality TV star, and that's how he operates. He does things, sees how people react, and readjusts from there. Those advocating the transfer of Palestinians out of Gaza are out of touch with reality for a myriad of reasons, such as, for myriad reasons, wrote that incorrectly. Such a transfer cannot and will not be implemented. So Netanyahu, egged on by the likes of Smotrich, has already made Israel a pariah nation. Trump has just begun the process. Sorry, not begun. He's continuing the process of turning the United States into a pariah nation as well. He's giving a seal of approval to ethnic cleansing and proposing a move that the rest of the world will roundly reject. So, also, in terms of practical implementation, like most billionaires, Trump has no concept of the role of labor in his grand plans. And I think it's generous calling, what he said about Gaza a plan. He was just talking. Who will be, who will be the laborers in the reconstruction of Gaza? It will probably require the entire adult population of Gaza to provide the direct labor and their support to clear the rubble, recover the thousands of buried bodies, and build new infrastructure, housing, and income producing properties. It's literally not going to happen. And what the eventual security situation will look like in Gaza is anyone's guess. But the resistance is still on the ground and in control of the battle space and has been reconstituted to a strength comparable to what it was on October 7th. This is according to reporting from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which is basically the organization that collates all intelligence data and comes up with reports. So, uh, member a member of the political bureau of Hamas, Izzat al-Rishk, says, quote, the resistance, insistence, and pressure on the occupation to implement the clause of the return of the displaced confirms the resistance connection and solidarity with its people in one trench towards achieving their aspirations for liberation and return. Our great people, with their steadfastness, sacrifices, and blood, thwarted the general's plans and foiled the goals of Netanyahu's fascist government. And now they're making their return with pride and dignity to Gaza City and northern Gaza Strip, unquote. And former Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir posted on X this morning, and this is a translation. He agrees this was a defeat. The opening of the Netzarim corridor this morning and the entry of tens of thousands of Gazans into northern Gaza Strip are images of Hamas victory in another humiliating part of a reckless deal. This is not what complete victory looks like. This is what complete surrender looks like, unquote. So there you have it from the horse's mouth. I don't care how much Jared Kushner wants to develop prime real estate on Gaza's beachfront. If the Israeli military got shredded by Hamas during combat operations, how do you think adversarial foreign construction contractors are going to do? It's like all of this is just not a reality. Just because Israel and America want a certain outcome doesn't mean it's possible. And U.S. foreign policy has been detached from reality for some time, and it's only going to get worse under Trump. Apparently, like now we're gonna go for like Panama Canal and Greenland and now trade war with Canada. The Mexican cartels are now foreign terrorist organizations. So like, are we gonna send special ops into Mexico? Yeah, and that's just what's happening with their new Monroe Doctrine 2.0 in the Western Hemisphere. So in the end, I just want to do this 30-minute segment because it ties in to the collapse of U.S. hegemony. They couldn't defeat a group of 40,000 orphans and flip-flops, but yeah, now they're going to enact their will throughout the world as a unipolar power. The empire is crumbling, and U.S. hegemony is collapsing on multiple fronts. In terms of its military power, typified by the recruiting crisis, and that's only going to get worse under Secretary of Defense Hegseth and his war on DEI. In terms of soft power, the ability for the United States to co-opt cooperation rather than to coerce cooperation. People no longer see us as the bastion of freedom and democracy and good old Western values being imperialism and at its highest form, genocide. And now our tech industry, the domination of American tech is being challenged. So again, right at the 30-minute mark, we're going to move on to our second segment. But to put a bow on the whole Trump thing, he can say whatever he wants, but it's not going to happen. Like, if someone in the comment section after this video posts can like write an essay breaking down how this would actually happen, where 1.5 million Gazans would go to Egypt and Jordan, like, I would like to hear it. I don't see how it works. I don't think anyone sees how it works. Even hardcore, rabid, warhawk, Zionist, mouth frothing idiots like Lindsey Graham says it's not going to work. He says a bunch of crazy stuff like war with Iran also wouldn't work. But if he's like, this is definitely not going to work, it's definitely not going to work. So just wanted to wrap that up, and let's continue to look at another crumbling sector of U.S. unipolar hegemony, and that is tech. The empire, yeah. So let's talk about DeepSeek AI, the hot new tech story, and why it's a good thing for everybody who isn't a techno feudalist broligarch elite. We're gonna, I think we're gonna go with an Indian news source today.
Move over ChatGPT. The next big AI buzzword in the world is DeepSeek, a Chinese startup which is shaking up the tech world with its groundbreaking AI product release, the DeepSeek R1. For a long time, the global artificial intelligence race was dominated by US companies like OpenAI, Google, Meta, Nvidia. But what took these companies years and even hundreds of millions of dollars to create is now seeming to be under threat. There are news reports that indicate that DeepSeek has actually created a cutting-edge AI model, a new large language model that's designed for advanced reasoning, problem-solving tasks just like ChatGPT. The DeepSeek R1 in just less than 2 months and at a fraction of the cost. A Forbes report has indicated that DeepSeek has sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley with its AI model developed at just a cost of $5.6 million. Now, this model developers are based in China. They claim that DeepSeek R1 matches or even outperforms some of OpenAI's popular models like the ChatGPT O1, but at a much lower cost. So what has this really led to do? Well, it is definitely threatening to disrupt the US company's dominance in the world of artificial intelligence. It has already triggered sharp sell-off in the US and Japanese stocks. Of these giants, like Nvidia stock futures slipped 3% in the intraday trade early today. We've also seen that other hand, we've seen Chinese and Hong Kong tech giants and tech shares are actually surging on the optimism of over DeepSeek's rapid rise, raising fresh questions about the future dominance of US tech giants.
Yeah. And so you may not be a tech person who really gets what's going on, but just take everybody's word for it when they're saying that what happened is disrupting US dominance in that sector and threatens US tech supremacy in AI. So like you know, DeepSeek's rise is alarming to the likes of Meta, which has been censoring us relentlessly over the past year and a half, which announced Friday that it plans a 60 billion to 65 billion in capital investment this year as it scales up its own AI projects. But it's obviously bad news for Nvidia, who makes these really fancy high-end chips, because DeepSeek was able to do comparable data modeling based off cheaper chips. Rapid advances are possible even with fewer and less sophisticated microchips. And I guess driving the news, DeepSeek hit #1 on Apple's App Store, which the symmetry of that's kind of funny because Red Note, another Chinese app, also hit #1 on social media after the TikTok ban was going to go through originally. So that's funny. After last week, they released its R1 model, which works along similar lines to OpenAI's O1 program. So presented with a complex challenge, it takes time to consider alternative approaches before picking the best solution. And it explains its chain of reasoning to users. And these reasoning models are especially good at coding and math. Okay, so this is kind of significant because OpenAI, their models don't explain their reasoning because they don't want other AI to train off of, from other companies to train off of their data models. So the fact that, they went completely open source is interesting. So the kicker is that DeepSeek created and released its entirely open source project for about $6 million in training costs, which a joke of a budget in one expert's words. OpenAI is spending hundreds of millions of dollars in their training program. So yeah, it was spun out of a Chinese hedge fund firm 2 years ago, hired ambitious young AI scientists and set them to figure out more efficient ways to develop models. So yeah, what's up with the innovation and competition that only capitalism can breed? So, it's not that the U.S. effort to keep the best chips out of China haven't had an impact. Like they're not supposed to have those NVIDIA chips, and we're seeing this bullying, these sanctions by the U.S. government of all these different countries around the world, whether it's Russia, whether it's Iran, are having all these unintended consequences that they didn't really want, because the U.S. uses sanctions as a cudgel to get people to do what they want, but it's also forcing countries like Russia and China and Iran to become more self-sufficient. Uh, so, I think like no one knows where DeepSeek would stand today if it didn't face those roadblocks, like not having top of the line chips. They had to work around it and innovate. And according to Axios, they wrote, we can't say whether DeepSeek would be making such rapid advances on its own without having the latest work from OpenAI and its U.S. competitors to aim it. However, they were forced to find a way to do it for cheaper and to do it at the same level, probably better, according to some testing benchmarks, but we're still waiting on that. So scarcity drives innovation, right? China has some great AI minds at work, and the U.S. might definitely need to rethink its strategy. Which basically what we're seeing here is the difference between technical leadership and the business-led model, which is meant to absorb capital, to make money. And I think people are starting to realize that things were invented prior to 400 years ago in the advent of capitalism. So Silicon Valley's startup culture relentlessly pushes research in the direction of the consumer market. But sometimes, particularly when a field is young and applications aren't immediately obvious, basic research is even more important than market share. But no, we're all in it for the market share. And open research tends to overwhelm secret research. Again, DeepSeek is an open model. So OpenAI's pivot from world's best AI lab recently to aspiring consumer tech giant has wowed the financial world, but could leave the U.S. in second place. Okay, so as a U.S. citizen, you should absolutely, be invested in what's happening. And I do think DeepSeek disrupting OpenAI. I don't think OpenAI is done. It's good for everybody. And I'm about to explain Project Stargate. So first of all, this was a big blow to OpenAI, but like other companies like Meta, like X with its Grok, other AI platforms like Anthropology or what Anthro. I'm mind blanking on the other industry leaders, but because they have other ways of making money, they have other revenue streams, from ads and stuff. OpenAI only does OpenAI, so now they're going to have to pivot to being like more of a tech company than quote the world's leading AI lab. So, someone asks, this is a perfect question to lead into Project Stargate. Is the American drive for artificial intelligence a symptom of having underintelligent populace? Can AI replace a dumb populace? Yeah, I think it's more from control. It's looking at it more as a form of control to make money, and also to reinforce pre-existing power structures. So, real quick, y'all, we need to talk about the company Oracle. And so Oracle is an American multinational computer technology headquartered in my hometown of Austin. The company sells database software. Funny enough, they built CIA databases back in the day, and cloud computing. So Oracle's core application software is a suite of enterprise software products that basically do supply chain management, human capital management, but they also have a lot of military contracts as well. And it's important to understand that Larry Ellison, who's now part of the Trump administration, is like the fourth richest man in the world. And this is a recent article, or an article from 2014 from Business Insider. Larry Ellison is a billionaire today thanks to the CIA. The CIA was the customer that launched Oracle. Co-founder Larry Ellison said on stage Sunday night during the opening keynote for the company's massive customer conference in San Francisco. Our very first customer was the Central Intelligence Agency, he said. And of course, one of the biggest clients of Oracle is the Central Intelligence Organization. So let's just see what Larry Ellison has to say about his vision for AI implementation in the United States.
Will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras, it's AI that's looking at the camera. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm's going to go off, it's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. And the supervision will, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person, whether it's the sheriff or the chief or whomever we need to take control of the situation. We have, same thing. We have drones. If there's something going on in a shopping center, and I'll stop. A drone goes out there, get there way faster than a police car. There's no reason for, by the way, high-speed chases. You shouldn't have high-speed chases between cars. You just have a drone follow the car. I mean, it's very, very simple. And the new generation of autonomous drones.
It all sounds, this is all how these, techno-feudalists who want to control and dominate society and ramp up the police state, they always couch it in like a public safety, national security thing. But no, it's about controlling the population. This dude is not acknowledging that we've had body cams for a long time. And cops just straight up murder people with no accountability. So why would it be any different? This is just a method of state control. And this is what brings us to Project Stargate. Oh boy. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong thing. Here we go. Announcing the Stargate Project. So the Stargate Project is a new company, which, Trump's totally on board with, along with Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Larry Ellison, who we just heard from, again, who was made a billionaire by the CIA. The Stargate Project is a new company which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years building new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States. Yeah, OpenAI is not going through the best time right now. We will begin deploying $100 billion immediately. Again, nothing for homelessness, nothing for education, nothing for anything that people want. This will not, contrary to popular belief, lower the price of eggs. This infrastructure will secure American leadership in AI, create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, doubt it, and generate massive economic benefit for the entire world, aka the top 1%. This project will not only support the reindustrialization of the United States, which it won't, but also provide a strategic capability to protect the national security of America and its allies. I'm so glad they just, they're trying to designate Antifa, which in Antifa members as as domestic terrorists, because Antifa doesn't really have members, and it's not really an organization in the typical sense. So basically, what they will do, they will not say that fascism has arrived. They will just make anti-fascism illegal. So I'm sure that this Project Stargate will assist in that. So the initial equity funders are SoftBank, OpenAI. Yeah, so the initial equity funders are all the guys involved in getting this project off the ground, and are also getting massive government subsidies. SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, again, who was led by Larry Ellison, who we just heard from, and MGX. And now, of course, Microsoft, NVIDIA and OpenAI are the key technology partners. The build out is currently underway, starting in my hometown of Austin, Texas. Fuck you. And we are evaluating potential sites across the country for more campuses as we finalize definitive agreements. Yeah, all of us look forward to continuing to build and develop AI. Yeah, great, dude. So anyways, we like that this DeepSeek is disrupting OpenAI. This is still happening, guys. They're still going to go ahead with this. And what we can see now is that now that China has found a way to disrupt the American AI market, I believe now that the tech bros, oligarchs, the broligarchs have cozied up to the U.S. government, they will lobby the president and congressional law and Senate lawmakers to pass protectionist uh, policies against Chinese technology. So no DeepSeek, Red Note. I think they may maybe this changes what the Trump administration wants to do with TikTok. Larry Ellison is one of the investors and trying to buy TikTok away from ByteDance. So yeah, someone says, I'm not American, but man, do I laugh at your situation. Voting against yourself, holy religious evangelical Zionist stupidity. No sense. Okay, well, you know what? You'll never go broke betting on white supremacy, as my friend Professor Butch Ware says. If you make white nationalists scared of a foreign other, they will evict themselves, bankrupt themselves, and imprison themselves. And we're seeing that play out right now. And part of the imprisoning themselves is electing a government that's a fascist blend of government and corporate power to enact a project like Project Stargate, which will have it's AI infrastructure. It's definitely not an Orwellian Big Brother deal. So yeah, I think just a whole lot of stuff we get to look forward to. So yeah, I think there's a lot going on and a lot's happened over the past week. I think we might just move on to go into the Q&A a couple minutes early. So first one is more of a comment. The New York Times has some shitty Gaza reporting. Yep. I mean, they had those former Israeli intelligence officers write that Screams Without Silence story that was completely debunked about the atrocity propaganda on October 7th. So they're totally complicit in genocide. And they got the Pulitzer for their October 7th reporting. So don't even get me started on the New York Times. Someone says, the thing is, Greg, what are they going to put Gazans through trying to accomplish their cleansing goals? Well, they didn't get away with it. I mean, a lot of the aid trucks going in are commercial. They have like useless supplies on them, but they're still going in and food's still getting in. I have to talk to some of my contacts on the ground to see like what that looks like. I haven't had time today, but there are more trucks going. I think some people who are more in touch recently with people on the ground can say, well, like what's actually coming in on those aid trucks. But Israel has a habit of only letting in like aid trucks with non-edible things, like letting in COVID tests during a genocide, like stupid things like that. So I'm sure that will continue to happen as well. So Trump has no say if the Palestinian people stay or leave Palestine land, or if and when Palestinian people will build Gaza. Yeah, that's true. The foreign aid to rebuild Gaza, though, is going to have to come from somewhere. So we don't know what the security situation is going to look like. There's some talk about having the Palestinian Authority come in and take control of Gaza. That will never happen. The Palestinian Authority, which some of my friends call neither Palestinian nor an authority, is a Comprador goon squad extension of the Israeli occupation. And Hamas is in control of the battle space. So I guess the Palestinian Authority can try to roll into Gaza. I'm not sure it's going to work out for them. Another thing was a coalition government with different Gulf states. Maybe Jordan and Egypt would be involved. I don't see how that's workable. I don't think we'll have enough time to talk about like why this ceasefire might fall apart because there's no exit strategy. They would have to tolerate Hamas still being in power. So will they be willing to do that? We'll see. But I don't think anybody has a clear sense of what the security picture looks like after this ends. Nope. The strategy. They just wanted to keep going and keep going, and they didn't accomplish any of their goals. So we'll see. It's giving Iraq War mission accomplished vibes. So it could go anyway. Trump, let's do this crazy thing. His staff, what the fuck? That's impossible. Trump, I know it's impossible. Why did you suggest it? I'm going to repeat that. This is a great one. Trump, let's do this crazy thing. His staff, what the fuck? That's not possible. Trump, I know it's impossible. Why did you suggest it? Yeah, you guys ready for another 4 years of that? That's going to be fun. Okay, Eva says, "Yep, the Lancet estimated far more than the reported. The Lancet being one of the oldest medical periodicals in existence. The Lancet estimated far more than the reported deaths months ago. Adding in the indirect deaths due to lack of health care and starvation, the numbers would probably skyrocket." So Muaz Khan says, "Why not the West Bank temporarily or the United States?" Okay, two reasons. Good question. You are referring again, like, why would they send the Palestinians from Gaza to Jordan or Egypt when they could just send them to West Bank? The Israelis would never accept more Palestinians in West Bank. They're trying to take the West Bank. They won't be able to do it. It's the entire purpose of their new Operation Iron Wall, which is basically where they're just laying siege to Jenin while the Palestinian Authority does a lot of their dirty work, and they're blowing up. They just blew up a town outside of Bethlehem. So they don't want more Palestinians in the West Bank. They want to drive them out. And the US, the Trump administration, cannot be seen to be taking in refugees. Like, his entire platform is no more people into the US. So that's not politically viable for him either. There's literally nowhere for them to go. So they're just going to they're going to stay there. And it seems overwhelmingly like the popular decision for the people in Gaza. So why do you think they destroyed everything? They destroyed everything to make it unlivable so people would, quote, voluntarily emigrate, and they would leave Gaza, and then Gaza could be rebuilt again as beachfront property for, wealthy Zionists from Brooklyn. Thomas, U.S. Gazans can flee to Egypt only when and after dropping bombs. I think I see what you're saying, but Gazans can flee to Egypt only when and after the dropping of bombs. Yeah, but Egypt's not taking them, and the United States, as I said earlier in the episode, cannot afford to have an unstable security situation in the Sinai Peninsula so close to the all-important Suez Canal. This is the result of the Democratic horror show over the past 4 years. Absolutely. How do you prepare for and prevent such a future? Well, I don't think we're going to prevent it. I think it's going to happen no matter what. The question is, what are you going to do? I don't know if this is the platform to talk about like radical things. Like, it's not even that radical, like mutual aid, community defense, building alternative power structures away from the state. And since, like, talking about liberals and blue MAGA and the reactionaries in the center, they're never going to join up. Like, I don't think they're ever going to come on side. So yeah, I don't think we have enough time to go into how to we could talk about preparing for it, but preventing it, it's already happened. Like, the far right-wing populism is exploding throughout the Western world. And, it's not just the global north, it's also India. Like, Modi's government's getting real spicy. Again, I don't have enough time to talk about Indian politics, but that's also going to shape the governments of other countries nearby. India is a massive player in South Asia. So it's just like fascism's here, y'all. What are we going to do about it? We can talk about that later, probably on my own personal podcast, because it's better suited for that than a news platform. But yes, Verena, what a waste of money. We have open source AI to work with for a fraction of the cost. Not a waste of money. Okay, the finance capitalists are making a ton of money off of these needlessly expensive pump and dump projects in the Silicon Valley, Palo Alto tech sector. And they get government grants and subsidies as defense contractors. Their goal is not to make the best product that's best for the consumer. Their goal is to satisfy their fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders to maximize the. Okay, well, I don't know what's going on with my mic, so I think we're back. I don't think Elon Musk owns YouTube, but we're definitely shadow banned, both on Mint Press and my own. In my own platform, we are heavily shadow banned. So we definitely appreciate any support, liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. So we are back, and I was just gonna say, I don't know where I started off or where I ended, but or where I got muted, but the US will not be able to compete with the Chinese stuff if it's egregiously more expensive. So they're either going to have to lower prices or lobby their buddy Trump, who now all the techno feudalist oligarchs are hand in hand with, to implement protectionist measures against Chinese AI or any non-American AI company, and they'll do this in the interest of national security. So well, Greg, what do you think of the U.S. Saudi corridor to Haifa? You think that goal is achievable over there? Okay, so I think, are you talking about the new Silk Road, the Mumbai to Turkey pipeline that's supposed to go through the Saudi Peninsula, through Jordan, and terminating on the Israeli port of Haifa? I think it'll happen eventually, especially if Saudi, the big push for this, and the big if Saudi Arabia, which is able to normalize with Israel. They're trying really hard. They want Israel to, stop doing ethnic cleansing in West Bank and Gaza so that they can normalize with Israel, but they can't right now. So don't look for saviors from the Gulf states. The only actor in the Gulf states that will do anything for Palestine are the Houthis, which are labeled a terrorist non-governmental entity by the West. So wait 1 second, guys. Someone just said Project Stargate is for CBDC infrastructure. CBDC. Yeah, I'm sure it'll only be used for CBDC infrastructure. Sorry. Qatar funding Israeli military base in Somaliland to attack Yemen. Yeah. So what's your take on Syria's near future, considering it's a fully fledged battleground for every interest in the world? Well, I mean, it's going to be balkanized and the government will not be able to act in the way it wants to, or maybe it does. We are out of time to talk about Syria, but Syria never really had a shot. I think things will get better for certain groups of people in Syria, and things will get worse, and that's kind of a non-answer. But we'll try to get into that sometime soon. Absolutely. In the meantime, while this is still going on, Saudi Arabia will not be able to normalize with Israel. But anyways, guys, thanks so much. Again, the U.S. OpenAI tech industry is completely disrupted, which may be good for stalling at least the incoming and onrushing surveillance state. And Palestinians aren't going anywhere. It's a non-starter of a political issue. It's not going to happen. So cheers, y'all. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. You are the only good thing about Mondays. Oh, thank you. Well, it's almost Tuesday. So we will see you later. And again, if you're picking up what we're putting down, you can support Mint Press Newsroom on Patreon. And I will see you guys when I see you. Have a great night, y'all.